Hello, this is Christian coming to you with another knife review. This time on the table is a 450 zero tolerance Sienkiewicz. Now this knife has been around for quite some time, and it is the smaller brother of the 452, also from Zero Tolerance, and also designed by Dmitry Sienkiewicz. This is a smaller knife by comparison to, let's say, a Civivi, which sits in a similar handle size. It's a tiny bit longer. It comes in at 3.25 inches in terms of blade length, and overall length of this particular knife is at 7.3 inches. Now this is has initially been the full titanium version of the knife. It's a frame lock that has been modified, so I gave it a bit of a heat treatment to make it look a little bit more interesting, and laser engraved our logo into it. But other than that, it is just a small version of the 452. This particular knife is S35VN, and I've been having that one for years in my daily EDC carry bag. So quite frequent companion. It also had a little bit of tip damage when I dropped it on the concrete floor at one point, which I never got around to completely remove. But it has a beautiful blade, and has fantastic grind lines on it that make quite a nice and distinct pattern. The only downside in this particular plate design, as you can see, as far as their plunge grind is concerned, that has always been something that's been bugging me a little bit with a knife at that price tag in that size, is that you're really ending up with a bit of a smile there at the end, especially if you're like me. This is not the sliciest of knives, mostly because it is just such a narrow blade, and given the stock thickness, it is relatively thick behind the edge. So I took it to 17 degrees per side to sharpen it, and that recontouring, especially on this particular blade, produces a bit of a smile rather quickly. But other than that, it has been a solid performer. Really nice to carry, and very ergonomic. So it's a four-finger knife despite its relatively small size. So I can get my hand around that with large hands very comfortably. I can also, if I take my little finger just around the back there, I get a really positive forward grip, which sort of complements the rather pokey appearance of this knife. And it is perhaps also one of the reasons why this knife is in my EDC bag rather than in my pocket, because it's rather pokey, and I'm always a little bit concerned taking my knives into certain places, having it in pocket, and then it looks pokey like this, and people think, what are you carrying this for? And they're quite right, because I need a cutting tool and not a poker. But it serves, of course, as a cutting tool quite well. It is really a very functional blade. Quite often you do have to do piercing tasks, and especially for that, I really enjoy knives with a really sharp and pointy tip. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. It's been around for quite a while now, so it's not a new knife by any means. And initially when I got it because it was one of those knives that was looked at as being a USA made knife with a perfect action, or one of the smoothest actions you could get in a knife at the time. And to the present day, I have to say, if it wasn't for Zero Tolerance's habit of doing that kind of double clutch thing, I couldn't agree more. It has a wonderful light switch action on deployment. and as opposed to their 5.62, also when it's deployed, your flipper tab blends in quite nicely. It's not too much in the way and actually gives you a little bit of a landing spot if you wanted to choke up on the knife a little bit. So that works quite well. In terms of putting it back into locked position, you're ending up with that, which is something I personally don't enjoy all too much. So you're in a semi-locked position, and then you can either close it with your thumb, or you can just give it a quick shake and it falls shut quite nicely. On the back side you have a relatively plain Jane pocket clip, and I have to say, this perhaps being the biggest letdown of this knife design is that they could have done something a bit nicer with this particular knife. Obviously you can get aftermarket pocket clips for it, but out of the box that knife at the time I think was $230–240 US, which isn't cheap by any means given the size of the knife. And yeah, it would have been nice to at least have a deep carry option in this particular case. But an iconic design nonetheless, and a very functional one at that, made in the USA. And I have to say it's a keeper. I will never sell this particular knife just for the sake of its design, of its uniqueness, and also the fact that at the time it was considered to be really a spectacular action. And this is going to remain in my collection just for the purpose of reminding me this is still a gold standard in some ways in terms of the deployment, but it also shows us how far we have come with much cheaper knives these days that live up to that standard and quite often even exceed it. So yeah, this is my personal Sienkiewicz 450. A very good knife with a number of flaws, but certainly a keeper. And if you can still grab one, I would recommend it to you if you're a collector. It is most certainly a knife that belongs in a collection. It is a timeless piece. All right, all the best from my end, and see you next time. Bye bye.